fact, believe it or not, the developing tropical cyclone situation over here offshore from Western Australia actually has more of an impact, and that's because this cyclone will remain attached to the monsoon trough even as it gets further south and pulls closer to the West Australian coastline. Whilst this system will never approach Western Australia at any reasonable intensity because of wind shear and dry air influences, it's just going to get ripped apart before it gets anywhere near Western Australia. This system here, as it tracks down here, is going to drag that monsoon further south, and as that monsoon trough goes from here down to here, it's going to pull in a lot of moisture from the PNG area and the Solomon Sea, and that's also going to kind of crescendo in the Gulf of Carpentaria, where we're going to see an uptick in rainfall as we get out to about Christmas time between the 20th and the 25th of December. This has been flagged as a wet period for quite a couple of weeks now. In fact, probably since December 1st, this kind of flung onto the radar as being the week before Christmas, as being a bit of a wetter week through parts of the Northern Territory, pockets of Queensland, and especially Western Australia. And all that's going to come from a developing tropical cyclone and the associated monsoon trough that's going to be associated with it. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. It definitely is a factor to watch now, this West Australian system. And as we get out to about this weekend, you can see the development of a tropical low will then kick off south of Indonesia. It's the remnants of this system here that's kind of got that 10% chance still offshore from the Northern Territory, tracking across the Indonesian coastline here, or the southern Indonesian coastline, and then expected to develop sometime between the 15th and the 18th of December out here well offshore from Indonesia as it tracks down towards the south. Again, a feature to watch, and it looks like that this system here is going to actually end up getting up towards a reasonable intensity. At least Category 1 status, could get closer to Category 3 status, but once it draws south of a line between Broome out to sea on about the 20th of December, it is then going to weaken off, as it is going to battle higher levels of wind shear, cooler sea temperatures, and a little bit of dry air as well. Systems do struggle at this time of the year offshore from Western Australia unless they remain into the deep tropics, which this system is not expected to be, and it's actually expected to draw at some point close to the WA coastline, but again, zero threat to Western Australia at this point in time. And now for the forecast that I imagine a lot of people are waiting for. And I keep on saying it, it's no concern whatsoever. You can pretty much switch off the monitoring of this Coral Sea tropical low. But again, until it forms for Queensland, just keep close tabs on this situation. Not only is it not a risk to Queensland, but it may have a little bit of an influence on the weather scene across parts of the North Queensland coastline. So let's talk about it right now. The development of a low pressure system is expected sometime around this weekend, Friday the 12th of December out to about the 14th of December. We are expecting a weak low pressure system to develop into the Solomon Sea, and that is going to be tropical low in nature. We'll see this tropical low then drag itself down towards Vanuatu and then eventually off towards Fiji. It's now no longer expected to get to any reasonable intensity. At most it gets to Category 1 status, but it's going to be battling high levels of wind shear by the time it gets down towards Vanuatu, which is going to happen sometime this weekend. So its window for development is really, really small. This jet stream is going to give this system a hellish time, that's for sure, once it gets itself out of the Solomon Sea. So unless it can get itself up to cyclone status into the Solomon Sea before it goes through Vanuatu and then across towards Fiji, it's highly unlikely to ever be a problem system. And now all the major forecast models are jumping on board with that. It definitely looks like this system is reducing in threat day by day for Vanuatu and Fiji. Now, I would just like to say for Vanuatu, monitor this situation closely. The system is not likely to come through as a strong tropical cyclone, and it's not likely to be a damaging system at all, but we will see an uptick in rainfall through parts of Vanuatu, and we could be seeing a couple of 100 millimeters fall in one or two locations, particularly because this system is going to be originating in the deep tropics, and rainfall accumulation is going to be pretty significant as a result. Through the Solomon Sea, some significant rainfall accumulations are also expected. At worst, we see a Category 1 strength tropical cyclone towards the southeast of Honiara, the capital of the Solomon Islands, but it's not expected to approach major population centres such as Honiara, Port Vila or Suva on Fiji at any kind of reasonable intensity. So for Vanuatu, the risk is pretty minimal at this point in time. And we keep on saying it as well, for that cruise ship that's going to be leaving Brisbane and heading up towards Vanuatu on December 18th, it is also at a very limited risk at this point in time. There's really no chance that cruise ship or its itinerary gets impacted in any significant capacity by this tropical low or tropical cyclone, and whatever it does become, it's not expected to have a major impact into these South Pacific islands. And on the Queensland side of things, the only kind of impacts are a couple of showers are going to be flung out towards the North Queensland coastline sometime on Thursday and Friday. Really not much is expected to occur. If we were seeing this system develop into the deep tropics of the Coral Sea sometime around here, we would be looking at some significant rainfall accumulations into the Coral Sea, but because this is going to be developing well out into the Coral Sea out here through Vanuatu, in fact barely making it into the Coral Sea at any one point, it's not expected to develop any kind of significant rainfall through the Cape York Peninsula, and that is good news indeed, because typically these systems, these Coral Sea tropical lows, can fly out a ton of rainfall through parts of the Cape York Peninsula, particularly for the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree Rainforest. Anyways, on that note, that is going to do it for today's weather forecast update. I do hope you've enjoyed it or found it informative, preferably both. And if you have, then please consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Some feedback in the comment section would be great as well if you've got it. But that is going to do it for me today. A massive thank you to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I will update this list today as well. It is a growing list, and I'm very, very grateful for all of those that have clicked the join button lately. But that's going to do it for me today. I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.